The oath of office will now be administered to the 5 board members. Board members, please raise your right hand and recite the oath of office as members of the Board of Education.
I, Kelly Barry, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as trustee of the Board of Education of the Rockville Center Union Free School District, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Should put this on. Nominations will now be accepted for president. Are there any nominations for president?
I nominate Kelly Barry.
Are there any other nominations for president? Kelly Barry is nominated for president. There being no further nominations, I will call the vote. All in favor of Kelly Barry for president signify by saying aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Congratulations, Ms. Barry. Mrs. Barry, please raise your right hand and recite the oath of office.
I, Kelly Barry, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as president of the Board of Education of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. I now turn the meeting over to President Barry.
Thank you. May I have a nomination for vice president? Are there any other further nominations? There being no further nominations, I will call the vote. All in favor of Dr. Downing for vice president signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Congratulations, Dr. Downing.
Dr. Downing, please raise your right hand and recite the oath of office for vice president.
I, Donna Downing, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as Vice President of the Board of Education of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
May I have a nomination for secretary?
I nominate Janet Gruner.
Are there any further nominations? There being no further nominations, I will call the vote. All in favor of Mrs. Gruner for secretary signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Congratulations, Mrs. Gruner.
Mrs. Gruner, please raise your right hand and recite the oath of office for secretary.
I, Janet Gruner, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as Secretary of the Board of Education of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. I need a motion to appoint the Board of Education as the Audit Committee for the 2024-2025 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mrs. Celebrity?
Yes, the audit committee, please raise your right hand and take the oath of office for audit committee.
I, Kelly
Donna
Barry,
Downing,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as a member of the Audit Committee of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Gavin, please raise your right hand and take the oath of office as superintendent.
I, Matthew Gavin, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as Superintendent of Schools of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. I need a motion to appoint Mrs. Celebrity as the District Clerk for the 2024-2025 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of appointing Mrs. Celebrity as the District Clerk signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Celebrity?
Yep. I, Mary Lou Celebrity, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as District Clerk of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. May I have a motion to appoint Ms. Rinaldi as treasurer for the 2024-2025 school year?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of Ms. Rinaldi as treasurer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Celebrity?
Ms. Rinaldi, will you please raise your right hand and recite the oath of office?
I, Carrie Rinaldi, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, that I will faithfully discharge the duties as treasurer of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to appoint Mr. Bartels as deputy treasurer for the 2024-2025 school year?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor of Mr. Bartels as deputy treasurer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Bartels, please raise your right hand and recite the oath of office.
I, Robert Bartels, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as Deputy Treasurer of the Rockville Center Union Free School District according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items K through SSS?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
This concludes our reorganizational meeting. President Barry, we will start right with the public work session.
Great. Okay, thank you. Mr. Gavin, superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Which one?
Congratulations to our graduating class of 2024. The ceremony was a terrific send-off for all of our graduates. I also wish to congratulate our 8th and 5th graders who moved up last week, as well as our UPK students that are now full-blooded kindergarten members in our district. I really wanted to thank all of the faculty, staff, and administrators who worked so hard to make each one of these celebrations special. From the videos that were put together to all of the coordination and all the moving parts, it really takes a village to kind of pull these things off as seamlessly as they've done. So I really wanted to thank everyone for their part in that. We also want to welcome on their first day as administrators here in Rockville Center. We want to welcome Katie Mark, Patrick McGuire, Anna McGovern, and Michelle DiMartino. We had a chance to meet with all of our new administrators on their first day. I'm sure they left a little bit shell-shocked because we gave them a lot of information, but they promised to all come back tomorrow, so that's good. But we're really excited to add all of them as members of the team, and we look forward to their contributions to the district. Our summer programs will begin next week. Our summer ACE program is at the middle school. The special ed program is at the high school. The high school summer program is also here. And then, of course, we have our pre-K Jumpstart program a little bit later at Culver. We are in the process of revamping our district website. That you may have noticed today was the first day the new look for the homepage was put out. The information behind the homepage is still being populated as we move over from one website to the other, but all parents should know that all of our information can be found on the website. If there's anything that anyone can't find for whatever reason, they can certainly email me or the building principal, and we can make sure we get that information to everyone. This is part of our move over to Parent Square. So Parent Square is our new communication systems. So now when parents can download an app, and we will be sending out information about downloading that app, and the entire district calendar can be found on the app. All of the notices and messages can be found on the app. Alerts can happen through the app, so we're really excited for that system. And it's integrated with the website. So you can make a choice that if there was a school closing, it automatically populates the website, it automatically populates the apps, so that we make sure that we're communicating to everyone as well. I did want to update the board very quickly. It's July 1, so we've been in summer mode for exactly 1 day, but we've already started a bunch of our summer projects. We've already begun work today on the renovations of the guidance suite, so already they've ripped down the ceilings, done some work in there. And we're excited for how fast they were able to actually move today. It was really impressive. But as everyone that's done construction at home knows, demo is always easier than finishing it back up together. So the demo has seemed to have moved fast. We are also in the process of, replacing and reinstalling our middle school fence. That work is already well underway. We have also begun some of our smaller flooring and ceiling replacements, as well as the bathroom upgrade at the high school. So we are prepped and ready for when the blacktop will be repaved over at Hewitt. They haven't shown up yet, but we're prepped and we're ready, and we've taken down all the fence work and everything else. So we're super excited about that. And that is my report, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gavin, we have an acceptance of a gift this evening as well.
We do. We, as the board knows, we are starting a new JV field hockey team, and We were super excited to receive a donation of field hockey sticks for anyone that might either need an extra as a backup or want a stick of their own. So we're super excited about that. I had a great meeting with Patrick McGuire today, talking about different scheduling ideas for how to make sure that we can get everything done when we need to get done. So excited for that as well.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the acceptance of the gift?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien.
Yes, thank you, Ms.
Look
O'Brien.
forward to the field hockey season. Okay, turning to the public works session. Just a quick question, Ms. Harvey. I realized I forgot to discuss committees during the reorg section. So is it okay if I add that now?
Yes.
Okay. So before turning to policies, I'm just going to ask the board members, once again, for committees for this year. Audit committee, all of us serve on the audit committee. The building visitation committee, we all serve on that as well, both for the summer visit before the opening of schools and then the mid-year check-in when we break off into separate buildings. For policy, I'm going to ask that we have a policy committee this year for the sake of looking through and reading through policies prior to our meetings. Obviously, all board members receive the policies ahead to read through, but these two members would be tasked with reading through ahead of time and just communicating to us, whether before or during the next public meeting, anything that came up in your review of the policy specifically. So Mrs. Gruner and Dr. Downing, I'm going to ask if you two can serve on that. Parent Advisory Committee, Title I, Mrs. Messier, I'm going to ask if you don't mind serving on that. District-wide Safety Team, Mrs. Messier, if you can be our rep on that committee. Wellness, Mrs. Hackett, if you could be on that committee. Finance would be Dr. Downing and Mrs. Gruner, if you can be on that committee. IEPs, I'm going to ask Mrs. Hackett and Mrs. Messier to continue, if that's okay. And for Ed Foundation Representative, Dr. Downing, if you can be the liaison again this year, that would be great. Okay, thank you. Okay, turning to policies, we have at stage 1, 1336, duties of the school attorney. Any comments or questions?
Just subsection F, I think there's a missing sentence, a missing word or something. Retain such special counsel as may be deemed necessary in the circumstances?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll add the maybe be deemed.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions on 1336? Okay to move this?
Yes.
Thank you. 1337, duties of the school physician. Also at stage 1.
I had a couple of questions on that also. Subsection B just consults, is it during routine examinations of school children? I think we're missing a,
Well, so one, we don't have the school nurse practitioner, so I take that out.
Okay.
Conducts.
okay.
Yeah, would be the same as letter G, conducts.
And just for clarification, do we conduct physical exams for all bus drivers, or do they provide, and for all new employees, or do they just provide evidence of a physical, or go to our school practitioner?
They provide it.
Okay, so this is just in the case if they did not have something on their own, then, okay.
Okay to move this with those changes?
Yep.
3280, use of school buildings, groups, and other property by nonprofit resident groups. Any comments or questions on 3280?
So let me just give a little background with regard to that. This is being revised. There was a new law that requires school youth groups have IE. So we want to make sure that any of the, oh, sorry.
That's good.
I've never been told I can't be heard. We want to make sure that the youth sports groups that are using our facilities outside have AEDs. It's less of an issue, the ones inside, because they have access to the AEDs that are here. Many instances, youth groups are asking schools, well, could we use the schools if we have a portable one? The insurance company actually recommends that we do not allow that. And it could be the reasoning being increased liability. So if we're providing them with the AED and something goes wrong, you know, it's going to come back to us and say, well, you provided us with a bad AED. So this is a form that would have to be filled out. They'd have to attest to that they comply with the regulations. And this is something, if they use fields other than the school, that they really have to have as well. So that was the reason for that revision.
I actually did have a question about that, because someone from one of our town leagues did reach out to me asking about it. So is this form going to be sent starting like for currently in the summer or in the fall? When and how are we providing this form to the groups that do use our facilities?
I think as soon as we're ready to go and it's approved and adopted, we are ready to go.
Put it out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
It would be when they're reserving the space.
Yep.
I
Yes.
assume.
We are also going to
This is part of
pre-let
the
them
form.
know. So
Right.
like if they're reserving the space in tomorrow, you know, there's a new form that's coming, blah, 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 you know, but we'll have all that done, but it's got to be also approved too.
Okay. And just, so there's 2 use of facility policies right now, one for nonprofit groups, one for-profit groups. They both have to fill out the same form, correct? In the policy for the for-profit groups, I know we're not there yet, but 3280.1, it mentions the application process within the policy. I don't think it's mentioned in the nonprofit one, that there's a form. I mean, I think everybody kind of knows it, but if we could just
Duplicate that.
include it in that policy as well,
So the last paragraph on the second page of that,
I think.
where it says application and
Correct.
regulation.
If we could have a similar thing in
No problem.
in 3280.
Yep. It's funny because actually the one in 3280.1, it references the
Right.
application, the same application process, but it doesn't specifically state it.
Correct.
But we could add it to specifically state it.
Thank you.
Are we okay moving with that?
Can I just ask a question to Mrs. Gruner's point? So if this is something new that we're adopting, have we let our youth leagues know that this is coming, just so that if, in case they need to purchase AEDs, they can get on top of that this summer?
Patrick McGuire is starting, I think he starts tomorrow or Wednesday, his first meeting with youth organization, so it'll be one of the topics of conversation.
Yeah, I would just appreciate
I know that
that's-
we start with the Titans, and then I know he's reaching out to soccer and some of the other youth groups that use our fields.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question about fees. Mr. Bartels, it says that they'll be established by July 1st, so is there somewhere that these groups can access the fees of somewhere as they're thinking about applying for using the space? It says it in all of the 3 that we're looking at today, so that's why, because it was July 1st, it kind of jumped out at me. So I was just wondering, people that kind of work with us year over year might know kind of what to expect, but for a new group, I was just wondering, like, maybe we could include a resource for where they could access that, if they should contact the administration building or
Put it on the
something
website.
like that.
Brand new website. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And with regard to the AEDs and the youth groups, I know that is something that has been going out, the different organizations, they also have been working on this because, especially for some of the smaller groups, this is a big deal. It's not, because it's not only having the AED, it's having the person who's trained with the AED. And, often, if you have a parent coach or a volunteer coach, they're the one that's trained, but there has to be a backup for if that person isn't there. So
Correct.
it is something that they should be aware of, but it is never a bad idea to give more information, assuming that they really had no idea.
Okay, so are we okay with moving 3280, 3280.1 and the form forward? Okay. And we'll just make sure that the two are reflected with the, both referencing the form?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 6470, staff acceptable use policy.
So this is something Mike Anderson worked on with myself and went over with administration also, just to kind of lay out, what could be done, what can't be done, security, really kind of stemming from the importance of kind of having controls over what's being done on networks, because, whenever you're on the internet or you're on and something like that, you do open the district up to a potential issue with regard to that. And it's always a weighing. You can't, you'll never be able to have a system that's 100% secure and has no ability to be hacked. But the goal is to make sure that people are on the website, internet and things like that. When it's for, the use of the school, you're going to have incidental use, but again, you want to really minimize that.
All right, thank you. So Mr. Gavin will make sure staff is aware of this, since it looks like it will be adopted close to the beginning of the school year. And,
Yep.
Okay.
And then what we have done in the past is part of login, you see when you log in, the entire acceptable use. This is a little longer than our current one, so we might have to work on, another, like, here's a place where you can see the rest of it or something like that. But generally speaking, by logging in, people acquiesce and say, I'm accepting the acceptable use.
Thank you. 7110, attendance.
So this policy, the revisions that you discussed at the last session were incorporated. One thing I still think needs to be looked at and kind of tightened up a little bit more is when you're dealing with attendance incentives.
Agreed.
So attendance incentives, there has to be attendance incentives in the policy. The policy, what was added, it really came from Erie and Wombosis, things that I've seen in other districts. We do need to make sure that these are things that are being used in the district and are not just a list of things that were added by me.
So that was one of my questions. The language still says, in order to encourage student attendance, the district will develop these and perhaps more, is how I'm reading it.
Yes, so
Okay.
we need
are-
to confirm that these are actually being done.
So these are all required
They are
by
not,
the state?
no,
or-
so
Right,
none of
so-
these A through G are required. We
So I
need to
guess-
have incentives.
My question is,
So I can tell you that we do have a lot of special events like C, we typically do special events, assemblies, guest speakers, on days that have high absenteeism. So that's
Yep.
something that we can do. Right now, we don't have like grade level rewards for best attendance by building. We don't have some of these things. So I would caution us into, exactly how much we're putting in here. Because I don't have monthly drawings for prizes. We have prizes for certain things, like behavioral incentives sometimes, but not necessarily attendance right now.
well, and I would want some teacher input into
Mhm.
what incentives would make the most sense at different, it's probably somewhat building specific, but also age level specific, right?
Mhm.
So I'm just hesitant to list all, that we will do all, like, the way I'm reading it, I think it still needs further revision
Mhm.
before we settle on something.
So my recommendation is we need, I need more direction of what we do. And I could revise the language to what we do. I know that there's discussion about then creating an attendance committee, which makes a lot of sense to discuss, well, what could be done in the future, things. But I don't want to push off finalizing the attendance policy to have a committee at a later date.
I would feel comfortable, Mara, with G. Right, it's not just an assembly, we do assemblies all the time, and we can always make sure that people mention good attendance. I would feel comfortable right now with E, classroom acknowledgement. We have certainly done classroom acknowledgement. We may not necessarily be doing certificates, but we've done classroom acknowledgement. And I would be comfortable with C. I do not want to post attendance honor rolls in prominent places. I don't think that's an appropriate thing to do because everyone has different reasons why they're absent or not absent. So I don't want to call attention to someone who may have a pretty significant health issue, or is not there or something like that.
Do we have to list examples, or can we put the attendance incentives sentence in there and end it at strategies and programs, period, and leave it. And
At
really
building
take time to
discretion or
think,
something,
right,
yeah.
because
With a
then we're
committee,
committing
yeah.
to having the incentives without, because what I don't want to do is, we're gonna go through these 3 stages, put a couple of things in there, go through it all over again, and we've been trying to take policies and move them forward so we can get onto the old ones. So I would say, end it. That would be my suggestion.
I agree, less is more in terms of being specific.
Totally comfortable with that.
Yep, so I'll take out the list of the including, and it will just say that in order to encourage student attendance, the district will develop and implement grade appropriate or building level strategies and programs.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you for adding the doctor dental appointment.
Yes, thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. You know, and that really is, you know, I know every time you go to a doctor, they're always trying to schedule you right in the middle of the day. And I know you always have to, I have to turn around, well, no, you know, we want it after. You know, if you can't, if it's a doctor, so say you're doing a neurologist and they're only open until 2 o'clock, you know, it doesn't make sense that should be a excused absent. But if you're choosing to go in the middle of the day, that's a different story.
Well, and I think some kids go to full day. There are some instances where it's not just a shortened amount of time that you can make those arrangements.
Right.
So I appreciate the fact that we added it. Thank you.
Okay, so I will take that out.
Anything else on 7110 for now?
I don't have any questions about the policy specifically, but I'm still curious about the student attendance handbook that's referenced in there. I still haven't seen that. I still would like to know when that was last updated.
Okay.
I would really like to see a lot of work done around attendance, and I really would love to see it linked into MTSS so that we're not just having like baseline policy, that we're really looking at what we're doing, we're talking to our students, we're talking to our families about chronic absenteeism, and I would still like to see the data on our numbers.
So, you know, I know you and I have had separate conversations on that, so we're totally in alignment about trying to make sure that you have and the board has all the data and access to everything that they need to have in terms of chronic absenteeism. It's not something that we're just facing. This is nationwide, and it's been since the pandemic. And there's a ton of research on there now that it's not something we would have thought. We would have thought it would have gone down after the pandemic, and it still seems to be maintaining a relatively high level. So it is something that everyone can find on our school report cards on NYSED website. You can find every single, not for this year yet, but you can find it for last year. Everyone can find all of the chronic absenteeism rate on there, no problem,
Can
by
you
school.
send us by school for this year, though? Because I know
Yes.
we have that data.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is definitely something that all schools really, the school attendance has been an issue. Part of the problem is, you know, usually when you're done, you get past the school, you file what's known as a PINS petition, a person in need of supervision for educational neglect. I go into court on those all the time, and unfortunately, there's really no teeth from the court standpoint. Some kids, it works just by being in front of the judge. It's scary. But one of the things I found is many kids it doesn't really affect. So the districts itself probably will have a better outcome, you know, by doing different things than just kind of pushing it off to the court PINS matter. And this is not a downside to the judges that work on it. Really, the law itself doesn't have really any teeth.
Okay. So you'll continue to update us, Mr. Gavin, on that work? Yep. Okay, thank you. Are we okay moving 7110 forward then? Yep.
Yeah, with those changes.
7580, education of students in temporary housing.
So I think a lot of this language came from Erie 1, right? I'm just
Yes.
curious, on page 2, it's listing, beginning on page 1, subsection B, they're talking about all the things that qualify as a homeless child, all the circumstances. So it specifically states abandoned in hospitals. Is there?
That comes from the law.
Okay.
That's specifically from the law.
And that is fundamentally its own, like, category?
Yes.
Okay. So if there are children who are abandoned in other areas than hospitals, is that an unaccompanied youth? Like,
So-
that's another section here, so?
Yeah, so it's all, the McKinney-Vento statute is not the most user-friendly. statute.
Doesn't seem to be.
So, an unaccompanied youth, it becomes question of, are they using it in order to, did they just leave on their own? Are they just going to live with a boyfriend or girlfriend and saying they just are unaccompanied? That opens up a whole nother kind of can of worms. Usually whenever you're looking at anything dealing with residency or you're looking, it's presumed to be where the parents are, is where the child's status is. So if the parent is homeless, the student is homeless, when you're dealing with unaccompanied youth, it's showing that they're separated from the parent and they're not with the parent anymore. So it kind of severs the presumption of where the parent is. So the parent could be
Okay.
living in a mansion in Manhasset, but if they're unaccompanied and they're here, often that is an area that does get some level of abuse. Because with McKinney-Vento, when you say you're homeless, you come in, you say, I'm homeless, and the rule is you have to immediately enroll a child and kind of ask questions later. And then when you try to exclude, if you find out, oh, wait, they're not McKinney-Vento, they have an automatic stay in any appeal to the commissioner. So a lot of these terms, the one good thing is the commissioner has been very pro-parent in many areas. Homeless, they have been pretty pro-district. And I think not because they don't think homeless is a bad thing or that, we want parents. I think it's more the homeless McKinney-Vento statute has really been used not in ways that were ever really intended.
Okay. I think that was my only substantive question. There's, throughout the policy, there's a lot of different either parent and parental relation or parent and guardian, or if we could just for next time
I'll make sure everything
go,
is.
and I think the policies we've been looking at lately, we've
We've been
been
using
using
parents/guardians.
parents and guardians, so if we could just make it consistent throughout for the next go-round.
Yep.
Oh, I did have one other substance question, sorry. Towards the end, it says the district is going to train staff. So can you just talk a little bit about if we're doing that, how we're doing that, if we're currently doing it, or if we need to implement it, and how we're planning to do that?
Sure, we always try to make sure that it starts with the registrar, making sure that the registrar is up to date on all the different policies, because that's usually our first point of contact, where we would determine something like this that would fall under McKinney-Vento. So it starts there. I know that in the past, Ms. Love has also worked through PPS staff about trying to make sure that we've done some work on that about how to work with students in that particular situation. I also know that Dr. Moriarty has done things through ENL, trying to make sure that we are asking questions in the appropriate home language, trying to make sure that we understand everyone's different situation. So we have done different conversations around that through different departments.
I've also gone in, I've trained the registration office. Mary Lou, I think you sat in on it, Orly and Patty. And I could, come in and do more training for other groups if needed or wanted.
I guess my question is there anything new coming out of this policy that we need to update our staff that is currently managing this situation?
No, there's nothing new
this-
that's going
So,
on.
okay.
And if I recall, I think Patty was relatively new to the position, and when she came on, I came in and did training with her. But I said if we wanted to do, broader training, I could train McKinney-Vento in residency in my sleep.
Thank you.
But I won't be sleeping if I did.
Okay to move this?
Yes.
Okay, currently at stage 3, we have 1331 duties of the district clerk. Okay to move this for approval?
Yep.
And at 1520, also at stage 3, special meeting of the Board of Education. Okay to move this for approval?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, F2 to I12?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Mrs. Celebrity, is that everything that I,
Yes.
no, right, okay, I just want to,
Yes.
this says,
If-
okay.
Are we moving to?
Yes. Can I have a
Yes.
motion to go to exec session to discuss the employment history of a particular person? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy July.
Thank
Our
you.
next meeting is July 31st.
Thank you.
Good night.